Okay, let's start this deep dive in, well, right in the middle of absolute chaos. Just imagine driving yourself to the emergency room. You're having a massive heart attack, a STEMI.
Right.
You collapse literally just outside the doors, and suddenly, bam, you're surrounded by this team of trauma experts.
Yeah, the whole critical care response.
And they are like right up in your face, nose to nose, shouting instructions, shouting your name because you're seizing up. You can't speak. You can't even breathe.
And that visceral scene of panic, of medical crisis, that's really the backdrop for the experience we're unpacking today.
Exactly.
We're diving into the account of Jeff L.
Hmm.
He documented his near-death experience after this cardiac arrest. It was back in 2019.
And it's a fascinating account.
Oh, absolutely. It's remarkable source material because it really challenges so many conventional ideas about NDEs, especially when it comes to consciousness and memory.
Yeah, and what's crucial for you, the listener, to grasp right away is just how fast the transition was. 1 second, Jeff L. is completely overwhelmed by the physical struggle.
The noise, the choking.
Right, the yelling. His only real thought at that moment was apparently how rude these people were for shouting at him.
Yeah, quite a thought under the circumstances.
And like flipping a switch, it all just stops. The noise cuts out, the physical pain just vanishes, and instantly he's feeling buoyant, focused, totally symptom-free.
Incredibly peaceful. That's key, right? It wasn't a gradual floating feeling or things slowly fading. It was an immediate psychological shift. Panic one moment, profound tranquility the next.
He actually described it as experiencing a peace that, and this is his quote, surpassed all understanding.
Which is extraordinary given the context. I mean, a physical reality was life-threatening disaster, absolute chaos. But the moment his consciousness seemed to detach, that entire emotional state wasn't just quieted, it was completely replaced.
Neutralized.
Yeah, neutralized and replaced with this state of, well, perfection, as he put it.
So once that incredible peace settles in, that's when the observations really begin. Let's talk about that moment of detachment. He can still hear the medical team working, faintly now.
Right. The sound is distant.
He sort of glides closer, looks over their shoulders, and he sees the body they're frantically working on maybe 30 feet away. And they're yelling, "Mr. X, stay with us!" Mr. X being his name, of course.
And this is the pivotal moment, the core realization. He's watching his own body, his physical self, Mr. X, lying there motionless. And he has to consciously process this. Hey, if that is Mr. X, the body that was just in pain and chaos, then who is this? Who is having these thoughts? Who's making these observations?
It's a profound question, and he actually made a very rational choice right then.
He did, based on the data, essentially.
He decided he much preferred this current state, this ultra-pleasant feeling, compared to the messy, painful reality back on the table.
But crucially, this wasn't some dim, fading awareness. He was absolutely adamant his level of consciousness, his alertness, was actually more than normal.
More than normal.
Yes. His senses felt more vivid than usual. He noted this incredible clarity that was sharpening, not fading away.
Wow.
And that sensory data point is so critical because it just flies in the face of what standard neurology would predict, right?
Totally.
During cardiac arrest, oxygen deprivation kicks off this catastrophic failure cascade in the brain. Your highest functions go first. The brain should be slipping into hypoxia-induced confusion, maybe hallucinations.
But instead,
The perception reported here is hypervividness, enhanced awareness, crystal clear thought.
okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. This is a major nugget from his account. Jeff Hill didn't just, passively experience this. He became a scientist of his own NDE.
Yeah, he started actively testing himself.
He starts running cognitive tests on himself right there in that detached state to see if his mind is still working properly.
Testing his non-corporeal awareness is quite something. He specifically noted that his internal monologue, his thoughts, were still forming in grammatically correct English. He could sequence complex thoughts, he could make deductions, he could plan his next mental action. He concluded, quite rigorously for someone in that state, that his executive functions were completely intact.
His executive functions. So we're talking about the ability to plan, decide, reason, the stuff mediated by the prefrontal cortex.
Exactly. The very part of the brain that should be among the first to shut down during cardiac arrest due to oxygen starvation.
But he's reporting it operating at peak performance, or at least perfectly normally.
Better than normal, even. Which suggests that the apparatus of reason, the thinking self, seemed to be functioning fully independently of the failing biological hardware.
That separation, that idea, it gets even more, well, profound when he moves on to testing his memory.
Ah, yes, the memory tests. This is truly the paradox of the account, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So first, he tests short-term memory. He tries to recall the chaos leading up to the collapse, the hospital arrival.
Right.
Perfect recall. Exquisite, vivid detail, he said. The short-term cache was absolutely fine. Intact.
Okay, so recent events are clear. That's interesting in itself. But then,
Then he tests long-term memory. And he does it quite deliberately. He just picks an arbitrary point. In his past, he chose 8th grade.
just plucked it out of the air.
Yeah. And the results were, well, staggering is the only word.
Instead of getting like a faded snapshot or a vague feeling of being in 8th grade.
No, not at all. He was instantly flooded. A rush of detailed, sharp memories from that specific period.
And the sheer volume, the clarity, it was so intense that, in his words, it quickly overwhelmed him.
It wasn't just remembering facts about 8th grade. It was like accessing the full sensory and emotional fidelity of countless past moments simultaneously.
Which led him to ask that profound question internally, the one that's really central to understanding his experience. Where could all that have been stored?
Right. Where is it all stored? It implies some kind of access point or an archive that's far bigger than we usually think the physical brain can hold.
Precisely. His conclusion from that state of heightened awareness was that his long-term memory system felt much broader and deeper than I believed possible.
So if memory is just, neural connections firing in the brain,
Then how does a dying brain, a brain starved of oxygen, suddenly grant access to this seemingly limitless, overwhelming, hyper-detailed archive of decades past?
it really makes you wonder.
It does. It strongly suggests the possibility that the brain might not be the storage unit itself, but maybe more like a receiver or a filter,
A receiver for a vastly larger consciousness.
perhaps, filtering down that broader consciousness into our everyday experience. And in moments like these, maybe the filter comes off.
Okay, so he's established his mind is functional, maybe even super functional. His memory access is vast. What happens next?
The environment changes, right?
Yes, the environment itself shifts. He transitions from observing the busy cath lab to suddenly finding himself standing somewhere else entirely,
Where?
on what he described as a vast, short grass prairie.
Yeah, an unfamiliar, strange, and very empty place. No trees, no roads, no buildings. Just him and this endless horizon. It feels symbolic.
Like a stage being set.
Exactly, a stage for the next crucial moment.
Mm.
The direct confrontation with mortality itself.
And that confrontation isn't abstract. It takes a very specific visual form, this incredibly unsettling image.
Describe it.
He sees this dominating feature on the horizon, a black cylindrical horizontal cloud skimming along the surface of the prairie. It's stretched out of sight in both directions.
A black cylindrical cloud skimming the ground.
Yeah, and he knew instantly what it was. He realized this object, which was radiating this immense energy, was death, or at least his mind's ultimate symbolic projection of the end of his life approaching.
Wow, so he's literally watching death rush towards him across this prairie. How did he feel? Panic. Terror.
That's the thing. Here's that emotional consistency again, but with a twist. Despite seeing imminent death coming right for him, he remained totally relaxed and peaceful.
Still peaceful, even facing that.
Completely. He actually questioned it himself. Why wasn't he feeling pain? Why no panic? And he reported an internal presence, or maybe a voice, simply responding, no.
No, like it wasn't permitted?
No, just wasn't relevant.
Yeah.
He'd achieved total emotional immunity, it seems. But then comes this, well, almost bureaucratic quirk, which I find genuinely funny in a way.
Okay.
Jeff L., being the analytical type he is, even in this state, starts wondering if he should be doing the things you're supposed to do in an NDE.
Like what?
Like inventorying regrets and having a life review. The classic spiritual checklist.
The life review. Right. So did he.
Nope. The response from that internal presence or voice was priceless, almost dismissive, really. It said, no need, you do a lot of that back in the world.
Chuckles, seriously. The afterlife basically said, nah, you're good. You already overthink things enough.
Pretty much. Save us the paperwork, essentially. It's a marvelous self-aware moment, isn't it? It shows this experience wasn't just mystical fog. It had this clear, almost fraternal personality guiding it.
That's a great observation. It really speaks to the level of self-reflection woven into the experience itself.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a passive recipient. He was carrying his earthly personality, the cognitive tester, the
Mhm.
self-analyzer, right into this non-physical realm.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the cloud keeps coming. It gets closer and closer. Jeff L. noted it was near enough that he felt he could almost spit into it.
That close.
And right at that moment, something changes. He
Hmm.
loses the ability to form a coherent thought. Everything just stops internally.
A mental silence.
Yeah. And he took that as a clear sign that physical death was truly, finally imminent. He braced himself for oblivion for the end.
The final merging with the cloud, with death.
But just before that happens, there's an intervention. He hears a voice from behind him.
A voice. What was it like?
He described it very specifically. It was companionate, affectionate, and lighthearted. Not booming or judgmental, friendly almost.
Companionate and lighthearted. Interesting.
And what's fascinating here, and this connects right back to that idea of conscious expectation we talked about, is that the voice immediately addresses the NDE cliches, the standard tropes,
It called him out.
almost teasingly. The voice specifically asked, apparently with a light tone, "Where's the tunnel of light? Where are the loving dead relatives beckoning you forth? Where are the angels of light urging you to fear not and be of good cheer?"
Wow. So the voice itself acknowledged that his experience wasn't following the typical script.
Exactly. It was like the voice was saying, "See, this isn't what you might have read about or expected, is it?" It's such a self-referential moment. It suggests the experience was maybe customized for him, explicitly avoiding those elements he might have known about from reading accounts back in the 70s.
That's incredible. Almost like the experience was proving its authenticity by deviating from the known narrative.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And right at that exact moment, as the voice posed those questions, the journey ended. The voice signaled the return.
And then?
Instantly he could breathe, and just as instantly, he re-inhabited my body with a thud.
With a thud. That's such a physical, visceral description. The sound of the spirit reconnecting.
Yeah. And his immediate first thought upon being back wasn't relief or joy or anything spiritual.
No. What was it?
Purely physical complaint. His first thought was, this body feels like it's made of wet concrete. It must weigh a ton. I'll never be able to move it.
Lapse. From ultimate peace and lightness to
Yeah,
wet concrete.
exactly. The body, which moments before was just this thing on a table, instantly became this heavy external burden again. It totally shifts the perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. The consciousness is perceived as light, free, hyperfunctional. The body is suddenly just the dense, cumbersome tool you have to operate.
A temporary container.
Yeah. And that new perspective, the body as a burden of vehicle, seems to be the bedrock of the philosophical shift he experienced afterward.
Right. He confirmed, post-experience, no floating, no tunnel of light, none of that. But the core knowledge he felt he returned with about the nature of the afterlife was incredibly powerful and comforting.
What was that core message?
He summed it up as, all is known, all is bathed in affection, all has been made ready for your arrival.
All is known. All is bathed in affection. That's a profoundly reassuring message.
Immensely. So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? How did this change him? Jeff L. actually characterized the changes in his daily life as moderate, not some radical overhaul.
Okay, so not a complete personality transplant.
No, but his deep-seated existential beliefs were transformed. They shifted from being intellectual ideas or hopes into what he calls experiential reality. It wasn't theory anymore. He'd lived it.
He knows it differently now.
Exactly. He said he no longer takes people or just mundane, everyday situations for granted. His big takeaway seemed to be that the universe, the afterlife, whatever you call it, is incredibly friendly.
Friendly.
Yeah, almost fraternal, he suggested, and completely forgiving. That sense of immense cognitive clarity and emotional peace he felt outside the body seemed to cement that belief. It allowed him to step away from the whole terrifying ordeal with this profound, final reassurance.
A deep sense of safety, maybe.
I think so. So, to kind of synthesize this whole unique deep dive for you, you have this individual, Jeff L., who, in the midst of a massive heart attack, rigorously applies cognitive tests to his own detached consciousness.
And finds it working better than ever.
Right. Proving, at least to himself, that his executive functions and his memory recall were not only intact but vastly superior to normal waking life. The journey itself was marked by this incredible peace, a symbolic face-off with death.
And that return, signaled by that wry, affectionate voice that specifically, deliberately dismantled the standard NDE narrative people expect.
And his final personal takeaway, the core message he brought back, was simple and powerful. Nothing hurt, and the afterlife tenderly awaits your arrival.
It's a compelling account. And that voice, the one questioning the standard narrative, the missing tunnel, the absent angels, that brings us right back to that point Jeff L. himself made about self-reflection.
About his prior knowledge.
Exactly. He noted that having read about NDEs decades earlier might somehow have affected or shaped his own experience, which raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about.
Okay, what's the final thought?
If human consciousness enters these profound states, already aware of the popular cultural narratives surrounding death and dying, how much of what's experienced, even something as vivid and unique as this, is filtered or shaped by that knowledge?
So are we subtly influencing the script?
Or maybe the experience itself uses our expectations, or lack thereof, to make its point. In this case, by not showing the tunnel, by having the voice point out its absence, was the experience perhaps structuring itself to contradict his expectations, to make it feel even more real, more personalized?
Does knowing the tropes change the experience? Does the experience deliberately play with or against those tropes?
It's a fascinating question about the interplay between consciousness, expectation, and the nature of these experiences. How much is structured by what we expect to see? Or, as in Jeff's case, by the pointed absence of those expectations.
A really deep thought to end on, especially when you consider his description of that vast memory storage and the sheer unburdened clarity of consciousness when it's temporarily freed from something as heavy as wet concrete.
Thank you for listening to Borrowed Time NDE Podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss a moment of inspiration. Until next time, wishing you an extraordinary and truly wonderful time on your journey through life.